not another emergency.
Okay, so right now you should see a list of an Excel spreadsheet of things that I pulled, right? But this, are you guys looking at the data analytics report that I have?
Yes.
Okay, so I basically went into the e-inventory and pulled sound recording only because I figured out that how it was originally cataloged in the system was as a sound recording, which isn't always the case. And I came up with obviously a list, and you can see the location access with the ID, and I was able to get the titles. The other thing that I did prior, let me see if I can find this, is I was able to, let me see if this is the same one. Yeah, so this one, oh God, I'm trying to remember if this is what I actually pulled. I'm trying to see, it looks like that's the titles here. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, so proxy link. Okay, so this I actually pulled from Ebsco itself of the books that were in that audiobook collection originally. So I went in and we had it like 815 titles. So I went into the database itself and went page by page and exported all of them. And then I sent this over to, oh, what's her face? Our lady over in Baker and Taylor. I sent this over to her. Here's the title list that we're supposed to have. And I've got the link outs. And when I pulled, let's see here, hold on. I export this. I have to go to the very bottom. So that's done. Oh, it's weird. Sorry, I'm not actually. I just want to see if I actually have it correct. It looks like some of these don't even have. So some of these, it should have none. These may be ones that I purchased after. You know what I mean? Where I actually was using everything that we had was purchased prior to Alma migration. So this whole audiobook collection was done, I want to say like 2012, 2013, something like that. So it was prior to Alma, which is why it was not in a collection of any kind and the way, and like just the way that it was cataloged. So let's see here. I open up. So now this has information. It's, I mean, it's a totally different report, but I've got, if I scroll to the bottom of this one, so this one I've got 856 versus the one that I got from originally from Ebsco, which was 815.
Yes.
So yeah, anyway, it's just, it's kind of a mess. And then on top of that, hold on. So this one, she sent me this inventory report with some sort of, I don't know what you call it, like a, here's the new link out, I guess, so to speak, if I want to update it in our system. But if I go here, oops. I have 725. So there's still a weird discrepancy of things, and I have not yet gotten to figure out matching and or updating the system. But that's where I am with this project.
So Baker and Taylor says you have several hundred more
No,
e-audiobooks than
less. So this says I have 725. My
Okay.
original that I pulled directly from Ebsco before we migrated says I had 815, which is what it used to say.
okay.
And then when I did the inventory list from Alma, it's this one, I have 856. I don't think I purchased 50 more audiobooks at this point. Although I suppose it's possible. But I don't think I've purchased 50. But here I can actually look. I'm going to bet if I filter out where it says Ebsco Information Services here, and the only ones that don't are the none, those are the ones that I would need to update, theoretically anyway. But that's my next. It's a project for when I'm not drowning. But yes, that's my next big thing. But at least I figured out kind of. Did anybody else get that collection at that time, like the state collection, and have to do this?
We did it temporarily when it was RB Digital. Is that the same one? We got some audiobooks from the Washington State Library contract, and I know when they went to whatever the new system was, which is when we bailed, I thought that they had some shared purchases, and that's what I'm wondering if your extras are things that were purchased by the state library for everyone and just therefore got left in your system.
I'm not sure because I know that they were all active in Ebsco as an audiobook collection, but the only ones that I have any record of any actual purchases were about 33 that I purchased myself in the last 5 years as far as audiobooks, but they were all via Ebsco. So it wasn't RB Digital,
Okay.
It was all via
Well,
Ebsco.
We don't do Ebsco audiobooks, but we do Ebsco ebooks, and Ebsco did give us a free collection. They added it. We didn't want it, but they added it anyway. They were like classics and some juvenile books.
Gotcha.
So I'm wondering if maybe they did something similar with audiobooks.
My understanding is that at some point this was part of the state's collection.
Yeah.
And that maybe we bought in at the state level via Ebsco at some point and just imported these as individual titles kind of on their own and didn't put them into any kind of collection in Voyager, because I've only got to work with Voyager for about 6 months and then they moved to Alma. But I'm just wondering if that's how, it's mostly just now I've got to do this cleanup job. So now I'm kind of caught up-ish in terms of at least I've got some working data that I can go from, because Ebsco doesn't have any audiobooks anymore. They got rid of their entire audiobook and offloaded it to Baker and Taylor. So anything that we had through Ebsco now has to be updated in the catalog to Baker and Taylor and all of their link outs. And Baker and Taylor, I can't even just delete all of these and re-import, because Baker and Taylor doesn't even send you MARC records. I have to go and
Is there a community zone collection for Baker and
nope,
Taylor?
they don't do community zone.
Okay, they don't share that with Ex Libris. Got it.
Not yet. It's in the works apparently, but it does not exist yet. And so I think there's a way that I can get kind of a brief bib record, which some of these are all brief bib records too. It's possible that, but I can do a brief bib record from the Baker and Taylor site. It's not the full record, but I'm wondering if I can pull the whole collection that way and just re-import the entire thing rather than try and run a job that could mismatch and then I'm missing a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the easier way to go. Is if Baker and Taylor has MARC records, do an import profile that's going to import the MARC records, create a portfolio, and assign everything to a local electronic collection.
Yeah.
That will
That would be
save you so
amazing.
much time.
Yeah, I mean, it was because my thought was either I do an update and then but even like I was trying to think matching MMS ID isn't even gonna necessarily fix. I don't know, like a title match or like I don't even know. So, yeah, that's part of the reason I put this off because I've been drowning over here with all the new duties and meetings. So, this has just been low on my list, even though it keeps like I keep making little tiny baby steps, but I'm getting there. Anyway, that's what I got. Carly, I'm sorry I didn't mean to usurp. Did you have any other questions? Because it's such a confusing mess. It's ridiculous.
He may not be back yet.
We
From the
still have
fire
some
alarm.
fire going on. This is dangerous. It's kind of scary.
So Baker and Taylor doesn't give you mark records, but
Well,
they give you short bibs?
kind of, yes. Let me go into their site that she showed me the other day. Like, okay, you can get this. I'm hoping I can get it for the whole collection rather than to go into each individual title because that's what it seemed like I had to do was go into each individual title, which I didn't want to do.
No.
But if I can do it as a collection, then yeah, that might actually be worth it at that point. Let me see here. Oh, lovely. Missing library ID. Please go to your library's magic wall and add admin to the URL.
I'm very interested in hearing about Baker and Taylor because we just had a visit by a rep from there, and she was talking about Boundless as the e-book and e-audio platform,
Right.
and I didn't know anything about it, so I thought, oh, it's something I wanted to explore, but if they don't give you a way to somehow manage the mark records, that's not a good choice.
We're going to be using Boundless for our digital audiobook platform.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, so we only had a really small number of e-audiobooks with Ebsco. I think it was something like 6.
Uh-huh.
But we've definitely been looking at when Ebsco had the audiobooks, it was not a user-friendly platform.
Uh-huh.
The Boundless platform is a lot closer, from what we've seen, it's a lot closer to Overdrive or Libby, like the public libraries have. So it should be easier for our students to figure out. And ProQuest and Ebsco don't do digital audiobooks as far as we can tell. So if we want digital audiobooks, like Boundless is the platform that we're going to go with at this point.
Good to know.
But yeah, I mean, if we buy the digital audiobooks, we're not going to have a huge package like Melinda's trying to deal with. We're going to be buying one at a time. And so they'll follow the same process that we do with individual ebooks that we buy, where we'll bring in a brief record with the order information, and then the cataloger will go out and get a WorldCat record and import that to use as the bib record. But that's going to be our process. That might not work for other folks.
That's kind of what we're doing now. It was just we had all of these outstanding that got migrated over from Ebsco for our ebooks, and so they basically we landed with Boundless just because that's what Ebsco sold to, and so it's now just kind of managing, and that's who we're going to go with for all of our audiobooks. And they have a pretty decent selection of audiobooks. I mean, we're talking like hundreds of thousands of audiobooks, which is nice. And their platform, as far as their it was really easy to set up their platform and their searchability. I think the biggest downfall that I don't like is they don't have anything community zone in terms of, link outs and so forth. It's much more of a traditional, okay, I've got to bring this in manually.
So there's no hosting fee?
For us, we don't have a hosting fee because we purchased via Ebsco and got a deal because of that. I'm
Yeah,
not
there
sure
might-
about what it,
There might be an annual hosting fee if you didn't have any of the Ebsco e-audiobooks,
Got it.
but I don't know.
It was interesting because we were also looking into using their book purchasing platform. What is it called? Title Source 360. And I asked about buying ebooks through that platform, and the rep said, yeah, you can do that, but right now they don't have the ability to sell ebooks that are hosted by the providers. So everything you buy on their platform will go to Boundless.
Yes.
And then I thought, so, but they're working on the option to sell titles that go out to the source system. And I thought, oh, so they're going to that direction, and what happens to Boundless? But sounds like Boundless on its own is a pretty stable system. I'm just interested in looking into those systems. So I'm glad that I'm hearing about it today.
I can say it was really easy to set up, and from the user end, it was a lot more seamless, at least from an audio learning perspective than the Ebsco app was. Downloading it onto your phone, getting set up and logging in. It was so much simpler.
The Ebsco.
Than Ebsco. Yeah, Ebsco's like, okay, you got to download it. Now you got to log in, but then now you got to set up your own account under your own name. And it was silly.
I
And this actually
know.
does your SSO login. It's really easy and seamless. So, and their interface is pretty as well. So
Great.
kind of nice for browsing for that kind of thing.
Thank you.
I'm Googling and I'm seeing something about a net library collection that was purchased by the state. And this is something about all the net library books belonging to Ebsco. So it could be an old net library shared purchase.
That is very possible. As I said, it was definitely before my time.
Yeah. I can send these links to these old blog posts from 2015 if it's useful.
It would be helpful just so that we have context and I can put it in our notes so that it's like, hey, where did this all come from? That would be nice to have.
Hi. So I came in there, it sounds like folks are kind of learning from what you have learned about these titles, Melinda, and accessing them.
We're working on it. I kind of went through all the various different spreadsheets that I've gotten. Biggest thing right now is that I only have about 713 titles in there, and I think I'm supposed to have 815, but whatever, it's fine. At this point,
Yeah, and I just found mine and it has 875 on it.
That's what I got with the other when I did. That's what I got when I ran an analytics report, was around 875.
And then you were able to find most of those in the Baker and Taylor collection.
I haven't done a match title yet on the spreadsheets, so I'm going to get there.
Well, and I think I found something about the net library titles that were purchased from Ebsco. There is a way to still permalink to them through Ebsco, even though they've like changed hands. And so now I'm like, I should have like put that together with the rest of it, because I tested it on one of them, and of course I couldn't fully test it because it sent me to a Spokane login page with the proxy. But yeah, I basically deep dived into Ebsco's documentation about that transition of the who was holding the materials and providing access. So
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you looking into it. Thank you so much.
Okay. So is this something that anyone would like to come back to in a future date that I can like kind of just put on the calendar, or like maybe Melinda, if you get like the next step and more information, we can come back to it? Would that be helpful to folks to kind of keep this on our radar?
I don't know if anybody else actually got this. And so that's the other question, is that if nobody else has this, then it's not super useful probably to anybody except me just cleaning up my catalog.
All right. Yeah, and I wasn't sure. Like, it's really hard to always tell whether colleges have the same catalogs or not, or got the same resources at various times. One of the things that I am like to kind of try and figure that out, because I can download what everybody has as available and active to try and get an idea of what you have as discoverable. But of course, it's might change if you're doing any kind of cleanup or adding or ending subscriptions. And so I'm hoping to find some kind of API where I could basically, and this comes from the ACRL WLA conference, they decided to use, UW decided to use an API to figure out cost per use on their electronic resources. And I was very confused during the presentation because they were pulling all of the sushi data from Alma into Power BI, because Alma was doing the sushi harvesting, and they were pulling all of the acquisitions information out of Alma into Power BI. And so I was like, I'm not quite sure why you did this extraordinary amount of coding when you could take raw data from Alma. Like, you could take the same data sets and do a visualization in a different tool, because you can do cost usage analysis in Alma. But it got me thinking that that might be a way to pull together consortium data on multiple points with in regards to circulation, and once more of you have sushi harvesting set up, like what kinds of resources are being used, because Alma can't pull all of your data into one place for me. But if I could set up Power BI to pull from all of you, then I could actually like automate that collection of that data. And I think that would be an interesting tool to be able to show where across the state the biggest trends are happening in electronic usage, and where maybe there's some mismatch. But anyway, so that, yeah, electronic content that may or may not have use, but is available, and kind of comparing that across all of the colleges is something that's started to percolate in my brain because of this old audiobook collection. Because, like, you guys bought it, it was available broadly, but do we know if it stayed in catalogs after the migration? So anyway, just a little e-resource project that I'm kind of working on in the background. So we actually have another electronic resources management meeting next week. Maybe that calendar is wrong that I was looking at. It's let me see. It's on the website, and the schedule is. So my calendar says that next Monday is also electronic resource management. And my plan is so I developed an electronic resource management tracking sheet, where I could combine information about a public name versus a portfolio name, counter usage, libguides usage, descriptions, subject areas, cost over year, inflation rates, renewal dates, etc. And so it's very complicated to get it clean, and not have Whitworth identifying data in it, and still keep all of the formulas. So I've been working on that so that I can share that with you guys next Monday, because it's a good kind of outside of the system tool, documentation tool to keep an eye on how you are sharing out electronic resources, because if you're using asset links or database links on your website or in libguides, what kind of clicks are those getting compared to, how many times the word ProQuest is searched in Alma, or how many times the ProQuest link resolver is used, then compare that to the counter data, and then, subscription costs. And one of the top things that I was able to do with that was write notes like, this was a purchase in this year, it includes perpetual access. And then even though that paperwork was available someplace else, it was all in this one document. So if someone had a question, I wasn't having to go look for it. It's also really great for knowing these 25 collections or databases are all actually just sub collections of academic complete. And so if you're choosing to add or remove things from Primo or from your website, you have an idea of okay, well, this is going to be findable in another way versus, oh, well, if I delete this link, we don't have any direct findability for those resources, that kind of thing. So that's what I am trying to get done. I just keep kind of messing up my formulas when I try and clear content, and I don't know why. So trying to get that done so that I can share it out next Monday, because I think I've been talking about it for an entire year. I may have even mentioned it in my interview.
It took us 2 years to pull together our subscription e-resources dashboard, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, well, and I asked someone I was working with, one of the colleges, to put together a list of all of their subscription e-resources. And that was May, and I still have not gotten that information because I was trying to help them out to make sure they had things activated. So yeah, it takes a while. And where is your e-resources dashboard at, Kirsty? Is that like a OneDrive thing that you guys
No,
share,
no,
or in
that's
Alma?
yeah, hold on, let me give me a second. Let me log into Alma and then I can share my screen. And it's
'Cause I'd be
saved in
curious to
Seattle
compare it.
Colleges. What's that?
I said I'd be curious to compare it to like what I created in the
Yeah,
Excel spreadsheet.
there's a copy in the consortium shared folder and there's a copy in the Seattle Colleges folder, but give me a minute to log in and then I can share it.
Okay. Amy, since Kirsty's looking, general question.
This would be completely shifting directions. We have to temporarily close one of our 3 library locations and not, we cannot put any books in or take any books out of it right now. It's a potential black mold situation. So, I was trying to figure out what my options are. It looked like one option is to suppress each physical location at that library location, or it looked like I could just make everything that is currently loanable at that location to is not loanable. That seemed like that might be better because then it would still show up in Primo, it just couldn't be requested. And I'm wondering if there are any other options I've overlooked.
There is an option to revise your view to not display any physical inventory in that library.
Okay, that's where I originally looked, was in like my configure views, but I couldn't figure it out. So I will, thank you. I will look again.
I've got notes. We had to do North Seattle is going through a move and there was some stuff with like their stuff is not loanable when they're in the process of moving to the temporary location and then back to the permanent location. So I have notes somewhere.
Okay, thank you. I think between these 3 different options, we can make something work, and hopefully this is just short term.
That sounds absolutely terrible, though. I hope all of
Well, the
the
black
folks who
mold
work in that location are okay.
the black mold was found in a workroom, not in our area where the books actually are. So they're in the process of testing and seeing if it's spread. We hope it hasn't. And no one is working there. No one has worked there for almost a year because we just haven't been able to keep staff there. Anyway, thank you. I will look into that option too.
Kirsty, you in yet? Okay. So yours is using analytics.
Sorry, I was muted. So, yeah, so it's using analytics to do a couple of different things. It does some lists of all of the current e-resource subscriptions, what the payment is, what the renewal date is, what the institutional budget line is, the estimated increase for next year. Whether we have confirmed in CTC Link that it's been paid, whether we've entered the invoice in Alma, but we have not yet confirmed in CTC Link that it's been paid, and things that we haven't received any kind of invoice for whatsoever yet. Things that are in different packages, but like that's very manual. That's not something you could automate. We have to go in, and every time we get a new package, I have to create a new
Oh,
report that
okay.
says these are the purchase order lines associated with this particular package. The price history is pretty nice.
Yeah, so one of the things that my spreadsheet does that works whether you have acquisitions or not is instead of estimating across the board a 5% increase, it's actually programmed to calculate the increases from year to year and apply that to that resources estimated cost for the coming fiscal year.
Ooh, nice.
And yeah, well, and in that way, we were able to quickly identify a couple things that were like 8-10% increases. And the increase had kind of just been covered by things that were consistent cost, and yet were constantly being estimated at, I think we were using a 3% increase, but like it was, the budget was right, you know, like based on the estimates, but it wasn't accurate to the resources. That's really cool though, like, because if you do have it set up in acquisitions, subscription e-resources dashboard, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, this only works, like you said, if you are using Alma Analytics to track your expenditures and invoices and things like that. If you're handling this completely outside Alma, it's not going to do anything. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
take a look
mine,
and see what you can scavenge.
and mine was completely like manual, because like I would just go and put in the basic counter usage and the LibGuides usage, and I would put in the renewal price when I received the invoice. But some of the other details that I had in there, like the renewal date or the LibGuides description or the LibGuides subject area tags, were really helpful when we got a new librarian, and she was like, hey, what are the databases that we have like that should be on this LibGuide that hasn't been updated in 6 years? And I could filter and be like, okay, well, these were ones that we all determined were art. So, but that's cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. And which one was the one that you kind of create manually, the what's in this collection or the packages?
The packages. But then once it's set up, it's there. The what's in this collection lets you pick a specific electronic collection and you can see everything that's in it.
I love it. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna scavenge that. I don't know how yet, but that's cool.
And I can't take credit for this one. Chris Muzzin is the one who figured out how to do the what's in this collection thing.
That's nice. I think I'd even add a couple of prompts in like available, not available, proxy, not proxy, so that you could check like open access collections. And just know like it. I like. Okay, I'm gonna write that down real quick. Good one. Okay, it's 1:52. I probably still have some fire cleanup to do upstairs, and I'm sure you all have Monday afternoon items to complete. Any last questions before we adjourn?
I have one question to follow up on the Avon presentation last week. So
Mhm.
I can't remember if they will be able to do overlap analysis with films on demand.
Yes, she sent the most recent title list to me, and I'm trying to like put together a nice, concise email summary with that information in it. You can use that to do a title comparison in Alma. I mean, and I can do that as well. However, when I have done that for colleges in the past, it is not super accurate because
Right.
of the way they choose to title things. So I can do that. And then if you have films on demand and like send me your usage and your top used titles, I can then specifically search for those in Avon because it's a time consuming process that, y'all don't have time for with the million hats that you wear.
Yeah, I was wondering, I was going to contact the people who are in charge of Canvas to see if they can run a report to pull embedded videos. I don't know if that's possible. I'm asking because the price increase this year seems to be very steep. I don't know if anybody else got the quote for upcoming year and
For films on
films
demand.
on demand.
So, and this is, hold on, I'm going to